They are scattered throughout from an elevated point of view. Take a look up here. They have several officers up in that construction site. That is where I was reporting from last night when all chaos broke loose. They have their gas masks on. They have what looks to be like guns used to deploy that tear gas. So we have seen throughout this area where different law enforcement are taking a stance from an elevated viewpoint in order to kind of monitor the crowd and also be there for backup should they need to deploy that tear gas. Now, when we saw that firework go off and get thrown over into the crowd of law enforcement, that is when the tear gas kind of first started. It has calmed down since then. We haven't seen any more, but as you can see, protesters are not, backing down anytime soon. Instead of seeing a lot of people run away, we're seeing more people kind of come. I will mention that these are younger protesters. These are not the middle-aged adults. I'm seeing more 18, 19, 20-year-old age groups arriving. I have seen some of the older protesters, 30 plus, leaving. Guys.
Well, Brittany, what we're seeing now is we're starting to see some of those transport buses be moved in along with those military huge trucks, the tanker trucks. Astrid, you have also been watching progressively the energy in the crowd. It has waned from highly almost toxic to where they're cheering on police officers in a sign of solidarity by officers bending on their knees. But right now we are almost 14 minutes or so away from the curfew being enforced. Do you see anybody starting to leave?
I see several people around me that are standing still, basically saying not backing down. But the crazy thing is that I didn't hear these on the other nights, but the military just actually gave an announcement, 15-minute warning saying, attention, it is now 8:45. At 9 p.m. there can be no pedestrians on the street and that the curfew will be enforced. This is the first time I've had this warning in the 4 nights that I've been covering, well, 3 nights, one, the Friday night my colleagues were, but in the 3 nights that I've been out here, this is the first time that I've heard the military or law enforcement give pedestrians a warning. Usually, they're very, the way they enact it depends if the people are being agitators or not. But today, it seems like they are not playing around. But you can see there's still a handful of protesters on my side, and towards the Ferris wheel, there's even more. So I don't know how fast they're going to be able to make it out of here. It's now 8:47, really close to that 9 p.m. hour. But we do know that when they start moving forward with that force, with their shields, and especially with that tear gas, the crowds disperse rather quickly.
Astrid, we do know that the Atlanta Police Department gave the numbers of people that they arrested over the past few nights, from the very first night on Friday when there were protests to actually yesterday. We don't have any totals for today at this point, but the Atlanta Police Department breaking down the arrests related to the protests since Friday. On Friday night, there were 77. Saturday, when they had the zero tolerance policy that was enacted, 157 people arrested. Sunday, 64 people arrested, a total of 298. And it looks like this message has not gotten through. Wait, well, they're starting to run on the right side. I'm not sure whose reporter is at this position, but the police are starting to advance more aggressively into the crowd. Yasmina, tell us, what are you seeing?
Yeah, we're actually moving right now from the location that we were at. Everyone started running. I believe police are moving forward. I'm walking back over to where our camera is, but we've got that shot from above looking down. And it looks like the National Guard police are on the move. So Aeon will stay on that shot. Similar to what we've been seeing for the past several nights. It actually got quiet pretty quickly. Let me see, can I go back down that way? kind of get a better look.
And while you're
our camera's going to stay up there and keep looking.
And while you're looking, Yasmina,
from
from our vantage point here in the studio, we can see clearly from one of our cameras that the Atlanta police officers, every single one of them in this picture on the right side of your screen have on their gas masks. So as we approach 10 minutes away from the 9 p.m. curfew going into effect, it appears that the police department, along with the National Guardsmen and all the other surrounding law enforcement agencies working in tandem with them, we have seen buses starting to arrive into downtown Atlanta. What we've seen from history is that those buses are usually used for transport for the people that they arrest. Here is a look at the National Guard. If you did not hear President Trump's press conference just within the last hour or so, President Trump made it very clear that he said that the governor of Georgia, as well as across the country, is to deploy the National Guard to the point that we, quote, dominate the streets. And we're seeing a heavy presence of National Guardsmen. The governor, Brian Kemp, has put us under a state of emergency, and 3,000 have been deployed to the state of Georgia. But according to President Trump, if we need more, President Trump says he wants it done. So let's go to Barmel Lyons. Barmel, I'm not sure from your vantage point what you can see, but tell us, what is it looking like where you are?
Well, right now, the National Guard as well as Atlanta Police Department are starting to walk toward the crowd because the 9 p.m. curfew is basically here. A lot of people have dispersed already. But it's starting to get a little bit tense as we try to walk away. They're trying to push people more toward this way. Right now, we're at Skyview, Atlanta, toward that area. A lot of the protesters were saying, you guys, please just go home. 20 minutes until they start doing this. A lot of people still remained. Now, they're stopped. Right at this moment, they're stopped, and they're creating a line. They're setting up. Right now, they did already disperse tear gas. As time starts to count down, that may be a reality coming next. Now, a lot of the protesters did go home. We saw a lot of them walk back to their cars, but some still remain. And they're cornered in on either side, not only on this side of the roadway, but check over back there. They're working together in order to push everyone into that direction. The National Guard as well as the Atlanta Police Department are on the other side of the road, also blocking protesters in, trying to direct them to another path. Now, as time counts down, tear gas is going to be a real reality. I saw people not only throwing out fireworks into the crowd, but they're saying they don't want to go home. They want to fight for justice. But at this point in time, it seems that it may be a dangerous situation to do. Some people have taken... I'm sorry, Sean?
No, I was listening. Go ahead, Barmel.
Now, as you can see, they're starting to march once more. Tear gas seems to be...
Barmel, I can see that you are right outside the Ferris wheel. Give us some perspective of what direction, some landmarks where this crowd is being pushed toward, so we can kind of discern where they're sending them.
Well, right now we're in front of Centennial Olympic Park. They're trying to push us going in this direction past the Skyview Atlanta, trying to get people out of the downtown area at this point. You can see them all sort of coming together, not only on this side of the roadway. Now, a lot of protesters still lingering at this point in time, despite what's happening. That pop is a firework. Or actually, they're about to.
No, they are too. We're going this way.
Okay. All right, you guys.
We're going to let you get.
At this point,
we're going to let you, Barmel, to kind of collect where you are, the direction that they are sending the crowd, so we'll have an idea which way you guys are going. Brittany, Edney, you are also aware it's becoming more aggressive with the police and the military police starting to force those protesters out.
Yeah, we have been walking with both SWAT and National Guard as they've kind of made their way back from the CNN Center down towards Lucky Street. You can see you've got SWAT vehicles over here and then National Guard over here to my right. They are pushing the protesters back right now towards Lucky Street. This is kind of where everyone was stationed at the end of last night, where we saw multiple jurisdictions coming together, and this was kind of a stopping spot for the evening. It's also right next to that construction site where everything happened last night. We can hear the several choppers over air, but again, right now we're kind of holding fast here at Lucky Street. We've been progressively moving probably every 60 seconds or so. We're hearing some music out here, not much else. We've heard a few sounds, but we're on the opposite side of the protesters. So right now we're kind of in a sit and wait situation as we see how all these law enforcement come together and respond for this situation to disperse up these crowds, guys.
Brittany, one thing I'm noticing, we saw the Atlanta Police Department all had on their gas masks. I am now seeing the National Guardsmen have all put on their gas masks.
Yeah, everyone's got gas mask out here. You know, a lot of people have the shields towards the front of the line. We're all
not personally, anyway. All right, so bear with me, guys. Here, I'm trying to set up my camera. Nice. I just got a message from somebody at home that's watching the news. That's pretty cool. If you guys, the whole point of this feed is if you want to be in support of the message that's being spread out here in a peaceful manner, but you're either not able to make it out here or you don't want to because you're afraid of violence or whatever, that is fine. If you want to share your support out here, that's what we're doing here. We're doing live interviews. You guys can see me okay. We're just doing live interviews down here at the block party. What do you guys think? I'm going to go ahead and open the feed here in about 5-10 minutes. Let me know. If you want an interview, let me know. As soon as I get a couple requests in the comments, I'll start opening it up. Jason, to answer your question, yes, there is a few different groups. I'm not concrete on exactly the reasoning. Speculation is that there might be a little bit of a difference in agenda, but they both seem pretty peaceful, so I don't know exactly what the difference is. So Sarah says, I believe at the beginning of the video a group branched off, and I think it was said that they were headed to the Justice Center. Yes, so they were headed to the Justice Center away from the block party down on 13th and Stark. No worries. I'm excited to see you, Michelle. I'll keep you updated on here. Diego, thanks for the comment. Hit the likes, please. Just guys, everybody spam those hearts for me, the different emojis. Let's get as many people on here as possible. To answer your question, Diego, we're on 13th and Stark right now. I had a comment I had to reply to. And I'm going to go ahead and turn around. You guys let me know when you want to be doing an interview, and I'll open that up. I want to get at least 5 people in line before we do that. So it's a nice party here, you know, especially with COVID going on. This is kind of nice. Nobody's been able to get out, you know. Got people enjoying recreational, you know. It's just peaceful. It's good.
Presence right now of Atlanta Police, National Guard soldiers getting ready to enforce that curfew. It is a no tolerance policy. policy right now in the city of Atlanta.
And you know, if history repeats itself, Alicia, we have seen this for the last 4 days of, or at least the last 3 days of the 4 days of protesting, where police, once they put on that riot gear and the gas mask, and now they're aggressively approaching the crowds. We are expecting, if history repeats itself, there is going to be a deployment of gas masks and many arrests. We are going to closely monitor this. Make sure you download the streaming 46, download the CBS 46 streaming app. It will have all of the latest information, not only here in Atlanta, but the protests that we are seeing across the country.
Yeah, this is a nationwide effort that is in place right now, both by law enforcement and protesters wanting to make sure their voice is heard. Now for a 4th day here in Metro Atlanta, you are looking live again as Atlanta Police, National Guard, resources from the Department of Natural Resources are out in force tonight, enforcing that 9 o'clock curfew, the 3rd night in a row. Our coverage will continue as we move into the night hours. We saw things worsen before they got better. 24 hours ago, our crews are out. They are monitoring the situation. Stay with us for continuing coverage as day 3 of the 9 o'clock Atlanta curfews is just about to take effect.
Good evening. I'm Sean Gables along with Alicia Robertson. We are following day 4 of protests in Atlanta. The curfew, the 9 o'clock curfew, has now expired. The protesters in downtown Atlanta have been warned multiple times by law enforcement on the ground. Also, billboards positioned throughout the city to remind residents that there is a 9 p.m. curfew. There have been stragglers that have remained, have been very stubborn, choosing not to leave. We have now seen a very heavy presence, as you see on your screen, of Atlanta Police and the National Guard backed behind them as they now push aggressively into the crowd. Brittany Etney, you're on location. Do you see people starting to leave?
Look, Sean, at this point, we are right next to Atlanta police officers as they are lined up in all of this tactical gear. Behind them, multiple layers of the National Guard as well, with shields up. As you can see, everyone's kind of coming to a pause right now. We are continue to push forward and start to progress every 30 to 45 seconds. So they are continuously trying to push some of these protesters down towards Lucky Street, and that's where we are coming right now. So we haven't seen any additional tear gas deployed at this point, nor have we seen anything thrown our way towards law enforcement as of this moment. But we are right now at Ted Turner and Lucky and just waiting to see when law enforcement are going to continue to push forward this line. Sean? Alicia?
Thank you, Brittany. Let's go to Carolyn Ryan now. We have a team of reporters that are spanned out for team coverage as the curfew is now in effect. Where you are, Carolyn, you saw officers warn people multiple times, go home, go home. It appears that you have more officers than protesters behind you.
Oh, absolutely. So do you recall right here, this was the intersection where everybody was gathered 15 minutes ago. I'm surrounded by law enforcement officers. They have blocked all 4 streets on this intersection at Centennial, Olympic, and Marietta. If you look up this way, it looks like it's their command post. We've got more officers marching down Centennial Olympic Park towards this intersection. They've got the bus up that way, and it looks like, again, a command center. If we pan back this way to the middle of the interview, you can see Atlanta police officers are huddling here. On this side, they've got the Army vehicles, the armored vehicles, they're blocking that there. National Guard have that street blocked down. Pan a little bit over here, all these National Guard and armored vehicles are here. This is all blocked off now. Protesters have been pushed in all 4 angles. If we come and keep walking down here past these armored vehicles, look at this street, Sean. It is empty, not a soul in sight. Now they have pushed protesters all the way down, slowly but surely, and we were concerned that they might stop for a little bit right next to this construction site. You don't know what kind of things are in there, you know, tools or plywood or whatever, bricks that could be there. So they kept pushing slowly but surely, and how eerie now that the streets are empty.
It's empty there. It's empty there, Carolyn. But over where Brittany Etney is, arrests are now taking place. Brittany, give us the latest.
Yeah, Sean, we're continuing to push forward along Lucky Street. I can tell you that we personally just witnessed two separate protesters, two women, get either detained or arrested. They were taken away, had their hands behind their back. At this point, we have seen, we were able to get a kind of a higher vantage point, and we did see where past the Holiday Inn Express and Suites, that's where there are still a group of protesters about a block up from where you're seeing right now, because we're behind a very heavy line of law enforcement. But back past that hotel is where there are still some protesters lagging as law enforcement tries to enforce this 9 p.m. curfew. Again, you know, we have heard all weekend long that it will be strictly enforced, and as soon as we saw this wave of law enforcement move forward, they started grabbing every protester that they could. So far, we've witnessed two detainments, and they were for two young women. Sean, Alicia?
Brittany, as we watch, you know, it's clear that both the National Guardsmen and the Atlanta Police Department all have their gas masks on, prepared to deploy tear gas. It appears that they have not had to do that since the curfew has expired. They've been very aggressive. The method that they're doing today, I have not seen that in the last 4 days, and it's almost as if now they're taking the aggressive stance to those stragglers that are left behind, and they're now advancing into the crowd, pushing them because there's such a heavy presence of law enforcement that they're able to push them further and further out of downtown Atlanta with the intention of getting them to go home.
And that's what it looks like from our vantage point, Sean. And I do want to tell you, I mean, we feel completely safe because we are surrounded probably by maybe 100 or more different area responders, everyone from Atlanta PD also to National Guard and other jurisdictions out here as well. So from our vantage point, it is very safe, and it is a very powerful response. We, again, are starting to move forward. Check this out, Sean. This is what I've kind of been talking about, these spurts of movement in an effort to push towards all of the remaining protesters and young adults that we were seeing towards that front of the line who were out here ignoring that 9 p.m. curfew. I'm not sure if my photographer has enough high enough viewpoint for you to see through these lines of law enforcement, the protesters on the opposite side, but we are passing the Holiday Inn Express and Suite, and there's about 4 lines of officers in front of us, and right past that, about a block up, is where the protesters are, Sean.
And something else
Alicia.
that I'm noticing different tonight, Brittany, is that what we saw yesterday as the police and law enforcement were pushing protesters out, when they would push them away, they would start to wreak havoc on businesses that were passing with picking up items and bursting out windows. As you're making these spurts and continue to walk, are you seeing any damage to any businesses?
Honestly, Sean, because this is such a fluid and fast-moving situation, I don't know if there's been time for the protesters to do anything like that. I can't say exactly because we're not towards the front, but from what I've witnessed, they're just kind of responding in this cat and mouse type interchange of where, and here we are again, it looks like some additional resources moving forward. We just saw some additional SWAT vehicles heading down that way. So again, it kind of feels like a cat and mouse game of the protesters move up a little bit, then so does police, and then they stand firm on their ground. So at this point, I don't know if anyone would even have time to kind of do any damage because we are moving forward so quickly. And right now, bear with us, but our photographer is getting a higher viewpoint so that you can see some of the tactical vehicles moving forward from SWAT. You can see a couple of the guys on the top right there.
And I
as we move down.
I can see from Brittany, just from the vantage point you have now, that the individuals that are walking, the crowd has been dispersed significantly more than what it was less than maybe 30 minutes ago.
Absolutely, Sean. I mean, this is being broken up at an amazing pace. A completely different experience than what we saw last night. Last night, it didn't feel as organized. Today, it feels like the game plan is completely different. And this is wrapping up so much more quickly and without any of the, violence and tear gas and outbursts and that we saw last night when we were by that construction site. So kind of a different roundup at that 9 p.m. curfew tonight than Sunday.
Well, we're watching these images.
John.
It is it's refreshing to see that none of the protesters are getting any of that tear gas. It is terrible. And yes, we don't want them, some have been doing horrible things in the city, but it appears that because of the mass, Alicia, just the mass sheer numbers of law enforcement, that they're having to use less of the tear gas or the rubber bullets, and it's sheer manpower.
It's sheer manpower. It's the perception of coverage right now. Brittany Edney was speaking about the cat and mouse game. Earlier today, it felt like maybe the protesters had a leg up. They were moving rapidly across different parts of the city. We saw them organize at City Hall, Centennial Olympic Park, on the interstate I-75, 85. Now, certainly law enforcement has met them where those crowds have converged. Law enforcement, it seems right now from these vantage points, to be outnumbering the number of protesters. They have not had to use the tear gas that we saw 24 hours ago. I have to say, though, so many of you commenting on social media right now how much this looks like a war zone. This is some of the most picturesque, popular tourist spots across our city. And these are the images tonight of officers, patrols in full riot gear, wearing gas masks, using armored vehicles. The scenes that have been unfolding over the last 4 days here in Metro Atlanta, certainly ones that are not soon to be.
As I'm saying, this is the first start. This is how we work together. This is how we peacefully protest to be heard without destroying our city.
Absolutely.
Because nobody wins when we start destroying our city.
Nobody.
Nobody wins. It makes it harder on everyone. So this is how it gets, right?
All right, some of the raw moments happening as we are in the middle of the street. Those same officers hugging.
Thank you, officer.
Appreciate it. Thank y'all.
Yes.
Thank y'all.
IAPD and state police with us. Got to start here. Responsibility to be heard. Listen up. Your message gets lost when we turn violent. Your message gets lost when you destroy Indianapolis. Keep it peaceful. Be heard. Get your voice heard for the change that you want to see in the world. But do it the right way. Right? Amen. Amen. I love you. Sir, what are the police going to do tomorrow? Will they march with us again? Will they march with us again tomorrow? Sir, I'm taking it one day at a time.
Listen. Every day this week, Monday through Sunday, we will be downtown in the circle at 4 p.m. And hopefully
We will be trying to maintain the peace for you guys. I promise. Keep it peaceful.
that's exactly what we will do. That's been the goal. We just don't want, we don't want to be shot with tear gas or pellet guns.
The last 3 nights, right? Shots fired, Molotov, a destroyed city that we all love.
I was saddened, brother. I was there. I was saddened.
All of it. And it's all of our responsibility if we're going to peacefully assemble to keep it peaceful, right? We have to take an active role to make sure, not just the police, all of us have to have that voice to keep it peaceful. And that's how we make change, right? Thank you very much.
Thank you, brother.
Let's go. Make the hole. Make the hole.
Let them through. Go home safely. Right?
Please. We have made huge progress today. We have made huge progress today.
Everybody put the fist up. Everybody fist up.
I'm telling you.
Fist up.
99% is like me. This is progress. Hold out, Donald Trump. I know you may not believe it because of the way you deal with things, but I'm telling you, you have a great police force. You have guys that are willing to lay down their lives. Just this week, right? We had 2 occasions downtown. 2 critically injured people that were saved by IMPD. They went from being pelted with rocks and bottles and violent people to saving the same people that were violent with them and getting them into Eskenazi to save their lives. That is our role as professional police officers, right? We got to work together. So be safe getting home, right? Let's go home. Let's give the whole city a night of rest. I agree. We all need it. All right? Thank you, brother.
Everybody clap it up. Clap it up. They've made it simple. You're good. This time, southbound. Back down to about 44th. We've made it 2 blocks south from standing off. Please. There are, to the sides, people crying right now and taking in this moment. People, black and white, as you saw, who've never seen a moment like this. A moment where they've never been that close to a police officer in that form. Let me see if we can get. You want to go this way because there's deputy mayor. Let me see. What you got?
My son was killed by the police in 2012. Anton Butler. You just need to stop the killing. Stop and just ask before you shoot. They tased him. We got to do better.
What's your name?
Carol Butler.
Carol, what is it like right now for you to see this?
Well, with the police walking with us, it really, made a difference. There's a little, it's coming together. We're not violent. We just want them to listen to what we have long enough. So we're just trying to make a difference. We don't want the violence. We just want to make a difference.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. First, raw feelings and the stories and what to go through this. So as I told you as we walked up, behind us would be a lot of cars.
Somebody's behind the cops, but
there are.
and then so it's unclear. Oh, something got smashed. Let's go ahead a bit. Yeah, it's getting pretty tense out here.
Oh, shoot.
Ooh, sorry.
Shoot, I gotta
It's okay.
be looking up too.
Yeah, don't worry.
Alright. Yeah,
I'm not alone, by the way, so if you hear me talking to someone, I'm not just talking to myself. Yeah, we're kind of leaving the area because it feels like it's a bit tense. And this is 8th Avenue. So, definitely a different atmosphere from last night. Group is still there. Can't tell what shop it is, but some people are banging on windows, so there's definitely looting happening tonight in Manhattan. This is the cross of 8th Avenue and 18th Street. All right, so I'm actually gonna leave this group, try to figure out where other protests are heading. And just to mention, this was, I believe, 8th and and West 18th. And right here, there's a bin on fire. This is much more tense than I've seen the past few days. Definitely started off like emotional for sure, but peaceful when I saw the bin on fire. And this seems much more chaotic, with small groups of protesters, some of them looters, going around the city. Yesterday, as I mentioned, the atmosphere was very different. Even when there was, when the group I was following encountered smashed windows, for example. Oh, this is the first police line I've seen in a while now. And there are not many. They're blocking the way to West 20th with barriers and behind the barriers. And here it's like the group that we've been following. So just as a reminder, tonight in New York City, there's a curfew from 11 p.m. That's in about an hour and a half. There are different protests going on around the city. Different things happening. It's hard to kind of keep track of everything that's going on. But this group that we were following definitely was more tense than
Stephanie Ramos joins us
I followed
now
yesterday.
on the phone. Stephanie, the governor
there was
of New
no
York
chanting.
Announced a curfew that
protecting her armed
kind of
with AR.
Eerie silence, really.
You a great reporter, and you've worked in New York as well, covered 9/11 and the aftermath.
I believe that what they're doing is trying to get what they can get because of the protest situation. So I have children, African-American kids. He's not African-American. His son's not African-American. But you're not finna come to our city and tear our city up when this man has been here for over 30 plus years and helped everybody out on this block.
You're going to stand here tonight?
Who?
You're going to stand here tonight?
My husband is here. That's my brother-in-law right there. My twin sisters over there. They're not moving nothing over here. And then as long as we're around this neighborhood, you're not tearing nothing else up either. Everybody know each other. Why are you tearing stuff up? And at the end of the day, then you're going to come and ask for help. We hungry. There's homeless people that's out here, and they want to be fed. This young man will feed them. All these residents, they feed them. Why would y'all want to tear up the city? And you know what I've noticed? They didn't come from here. They coming from South Central. That's where they coming from.
Think so? What makes you think that?
Because I have friends. I got a lot of friends out here. He knows a lot of people, too. Nobody's coming to destroy his store. These are people that we've never seen. You ain't tearing up nothing.
Now, one of the things, let's look across the street, because what is happening is people are just boarding up. That is the 98-cent discount store, and they're having to board up. They got hit. It's just so sad,
Christina,
because it's literally just going up and down. Yes?
I have a question, too. For the individuals that are armed, did they interact with those looters, and did the looters see their guns?
My anchor's asking is, did you have the guns out when the looters came by, or did you bring them out? Did you interact with them? What did they see your guns?
They seen us. Once they seen us, they started running. They're all scared. Like right down, like these people.
Christina, let's go back in time for a minute to the 92 riots, because you and I both saw scenes much like that, where you had store owners with weapons just like that. It is a scary scene. It's an eerie scene. What do you make of that?
I make that people don't feel safe. We were in Koreatown, where the Korean, people were on top of their businesses with weaponry. They're not the only ones with weapons up and down Van Nuys, I can tell you that. They're the ones that are talking to me about it. But we have seen quite a few stores feeling that they have to protect. And you heard the officers when we were talking to them back at the location where they took out the safe. They're doing what they can. They're doing what they can, but at this point, this is really difficult. This is really, really difficult. We have been half the day. I mean, you hear the ambulances. We follow the helicopter. There were at least 20 vehicles. That is true. And then they separate. And we'll follow one group. And as a matter of fact, we now have that video, I believe, if we can roll on the first video, because what's also happening...
Christina, someone bailed from the pursuit.
Wait. Okay, hold on. We now have...
Oh, well, that's
let's take
underway.
a look.
Look at all these cops that are coming.
Yeah, well, Van Nuys is under siege at this point.
That woman you interviewed, Christina, was one of the greatest characters we've met in this entire few-day experience. She was really something else to hear her story and about protecting her community.
Yes, she was. And you can see they're beginning to board up.
And I'm also fascinated in that moment that the stare down that these looters see those individuals holding the weapons, and then all of a sudden they decide to run the other direction. Christina, we're going to get back to you in one second. We want to reset things as it's now 6:30 here on Fox 11. I'm Alex Michaels with Christine Devine. Here are some of the headlines that we're following right now. We're seeing active looting in Hollywood, also active looting in Van Nuys. The Riverside Sheriff, Chad Bianco, took a knee with protesters and our Haley Winslow live on our air. It was a remarkable moment that de-escalated some tension in the Inland Empire. We also saw protesters block the 405 freeway in Westwood. That's where our Bill Malugin is standing by. We've seen protests in Orange County and the Inland Empire. Our Phil Schuman is in Anaheim. We're hearing about some potential problems in Anaheim. We'll get to that in a moment. And another headline of the day, a new autopsy showing that George Floyd died of asphyxia. This is an autopsy ordered by the family. And the overwhelming headline has been peaceful protests throughout the day. But as we now are past curfew, LA County now under curfew orders, we are starting to see problems.
And I was going to say, Alex, I don't know how many people out on the streets today saw the family of George Floyd speak out. But his brother Terrence went to the site in Minneapolis. It was very emotional. It was very overwhelming. Lots of flowers on the ground, people taking a knee. It was just a very emotional moment, almost a calming moment as he called for people to show up to vote, to speak your truth, but pretty much not to commit violence and crime and loot. So I don't know if that's a calming effect, but I sure watched it, and it certainly was for me. So we're watching now the Hollywood area. We have Bob DeCastro there on the ground. Bob?
Well, this is super, super interesting now to me. So there was a looting that took place here. We know that they went inside the Gower Gulch. I don't know if anything was taken, how much was taken. They ran out. Okay, I guess we'll send it back to you guys.
Christina, Bob, we're going to go back to you. Christina Gonzalez, some developments where you are in Van Nuys.
Let me tell you what's going on. So these guys in the vehicles, let's get a little bit closer. This vehicle and those guys over there got out of the other vehicle. There's a gold store in the parking lot, and they were heading to it. And these guys came out and they said, "No, you're not."
Wow.
And he's with us. They're having a standoff here.
Oh my God.
Arguing about why they're not being allowed to break into the place. So I'm gonna kind of let you listen to this.
So these are looters
Yes.
squaring off with community members holding weapons on the street.
Yes.
And where are all those cops
Now
that just drove past you?
They're 3 blocks down.
Yeah.
This is really something here to see those store owners who want to protect their own business, yet they're by a business that is so vulnerable. Okay, so that's her family telling her to go back? Yeah. Christina, go ahead.
Yes, telling her to, because the two vehicles, there's actually 3 vehicles. And what is happening is that they parked in front of if you see the Buy Gold sign, there's a place for it inside the parking lot. And they don't want them to go in there. They were heading that way. They did not get in, but they don't want to be told what to do. So it's a standoff. Now the officers they went down the street past us, and you can see probably the lights about 2 blocks down. But right now they're just going to
14th Street in
Can you guys please give a wonderful applause to this young lady right here? Please. Especially the older people, the people that have been here before me. Hey, you guys know more than us. It's on us to be the leading example for someone like her. Listen, everybody out here has individual siblings, nieces, and nephews. I know y'all can look them in your eyes. Hey, they're smart as hell. Hey, the new generation is smart as hell. Hey, it's beautiful. It's beautiful what we got going. And I'm going to tell you just like this. Hey, this is the future. We are the future. But having people tell me I would never make it in this city, I would never do anything, having distant relatives tell me that all lives matter, that's a slap in the face. Don't you ever say that to me, or I will. All right, I will. I'm a good man. Right, I'm a good man. I will read you your rights and you can read you the show. Do not ever tell me all lives matter. If that was the case, then why are all these black and brown bodies being loud on the floor every day? Thank you. Number two, I'd also like to say to all the allies, thank you for being here. But if you see something, you better say something. You better step in. There's not improving all the time. Out there for us. Put your body out there for us. Show that you care, because tonight, National Guard is here. They don't give a fuck. They're going to come and use all the forces, and I think the mayor is saying that he's been here and he's talked to all the black community. That's bullshit. Where's him? Right.
Where are you, Wheeler? Where are you? I don't see you down here.
You really can't be out here talking to everyone. Where the fuck were you?
Did you see Wheeler down here? I didn't. Sorry, bud.
Yeah, definitely. But the last thing is, like, just thank you for being here. Because all my life I've been fighting as a minority, and
if some of these people started at 3 o'clock just like we did. The answer for you is if they continued the full march, anytime any of those groups started walking around either downtown or midtown, we've gone in total now for about 7 miles. It started out in front of City Hall in a protest and then in a march. And after the speeches were held, then we went down to the 75 connector. That is when things started to kind of heat up in terms of tension, because a lot of the crowds and protesters started circling around multiple police officers and patrol units. When that happened, about 3 to 4 minutes later, law enforcement with full patrol came out by the dozens, and that's when we started to see a lot of those arrests and citations and people being held downtown because of that protest. Then through the night, of course, things kind of settled down, but ultimately it picked back up again right around the time of that 9 p.m. curfew when we were on live television with you guys, and we started to see the fireworks thrown towards the police. So the day has kind of come full circle and ending again now in more of a peaceful manner, Sean.
You know, Governor
Alicia.
Brian Kemp, Brittany, just tweeted about a few hours ago saying that story where you were covering at the connector. He tweeted that 55 individuals were arrested for being in the roadway, and they've all been processed by the Atlanta City Detention Center. So the philosophy of zero tolerance by the city police chief and Governor Brian Kemp dispatching the 3,000 National Guardsmen, including the state of emergency extended here in Georgia. It appears, Brittany, that it has restored peace to the streets of Atlanta tonight.
Well, we just saw the numbers across the board in terms of law enforcement response just out in full force tonight. Again, we walked 7 miles in total, and everywhere we went, there was law enforcement in some shape, form, or fashion. I do want to talk about one of the most offensive things that we saw today in terms of a woman spitting in the face of a police officer while she was being detained, and he did not react. We had this on our live television earlier in the CBS 46 News broadcast earlier in the day, and I do want to point out that from what our crew witnessed, he kept very calm, just finished securing her hands and putting her in the bus to be taken for detainment. Sean?
Brittany Edney for us. You have been covering this all day. You have gotten your steps in, to say the very least, walking with the protesters since they started early this afternoon in through when the curfew has been enforced here at 9 o'clock. And we are happy to say so far tonight,
which is what was occurring here, you know, not knowing what's going on.
The whole country. We're an example, so let Denver be the example. We've been cutting edge, so we need to show them what unity looks like. So, and then real quick, And I'm going to keep it short, but I want my little man right here to come up here. Hey, Black Mark, can you come up here with my little man?
This gathering.
This is what we're doing it for. This is what we're doing it for. We're going to have the parade.
I want us to get out of here before they're done with the last speaker, otherwise it's going to be a big crowd.
Not much time.
Family. Nice family. This is what we're doing it for. So let's stick together. We are making a change. Everybody out here, we are making a difference.
Next, I'd like to introduce Quincy.
All right, I'm going to ask, as I'm speaking, for my brother Trev Rich and my brother Squizzy Taylor to stand with me real quick. If Denver's here with us, make some noise. This is beautiful. So the reason why this is so amazing is because at first the media did not want to cover this. They only wanted to cover the negativity and then blame it on black bodies and black people. So give yourself a round of applause because you're changing the narrative. And that means it's important for each and every person in here to tell somebody else what happened here today. Because the media or others may not capture what happened, but we are more powerful and we have more resources than any news channel, because you got Facebook and Twitter and all kinds of social media, and we can light up the world and let them know what happened right here, right now. The reason that's important is I just got 4 different messages on my phone from different scouts that I have in different
probably like the most diverse crowd that I've ever seen in Portland these past couple of days, and that's fucking beautiful. Now, it's beautiful, but I do want to say one thing that really pisses me off, and that's all these white kids that want to get their fucking fantasies out and destroy buildings, put people of color's life in danger. I'm not here to police anybody's protest.
LAPD has set up skirmish lines in different areas here along Sunset, as well as down on Melrose. That Melrose scene in Cahuenga has dismantled. That group has moved off to the west and away from the area, but here in Sunset is the hot spot between Argyle there, and there's the response here on El Centro. LAPD along with the CHP are moving in this area. This skirmish line here is pushing west on Sunset. Here's another one on El Centro. There was a group here that was formed here of protesters. They have moved north here towards Selma at a pretty fast clip, and they've moved out of the area pretty much. Another skirmish line that's set up here. The fire department is on scene for support. We're hearing that these people are all going to jail because of the curfew. That's what they're talking about right now. And so they're trying to get officers in the area to effect those arrests. There are several vans, buses that are here on scene that will be used to take anybody who's arrested to jail. There's a couple of sheriff's vehicles, or sheriff's buses, I should say, that are there on the north side of Sunset. Just to the south here below us, right at the bottom of your screen, you'll see a bunch more LAPD units that responded to this Rite Aid at Gower and Sunset it was probably about an hour ago now. There was a lot of looting happening to that Rite Aid. They moved in quickly and the crowd dispersed. Here's some more south of Sunset. Let me switch hill toast. NOC from Bravo. Hey, Chris from Gill on the 450. Hey, Chris, I think our signal is breaking up a little bit, probably mostly due to the camera ball. How are we looking into saddle, or is there an option for us for maybe OAT or PV? Yes, sir, we are. Oh, man. Sorry, Chris, did you say K-Joy? Someone else talked over you.
Waved down the police for help, and then moments later.
I don't think that they really were prepared in that particular moment that it was going to escalate that badly, or they didn't have the supplemental National Guard here. They didn't have the CHP out here as well. So now they've got additional resources here that they could use, and these are smaller protests in several different locations throughout Southern California. So these are smaller protests, and it seems like they could get a better handle of the smaller protests here, especially if you have these outcroppings of looting or vandals that take place, like the Rite Aid. As the group came by, the protesters came by, those people hung back and took that opportunity to try and target that Rite Aid store here or there, and the police were right here. They got on it very quickly.
Well, you know, also, you heard from the chief earlier, the chief of the LAPD, say, we had hoped that the protests here in LA would be peaceful. We had hoped that we wouldn't see the looting that we're seeing, the mobile looters that are coming from other areas into a location to hit it. But once you see what we saw on Melrose, the Fairfax area, and Santa Monica, police now would say maybe we have no choice to respond like this quickly.
And I'm not sure just because we saw this one incident of looting in this particular location that means there's widespread looting all across the Southland, that this may be one particular or small incidents or just a small amount of incidents that are going to occur. That does not mean that as the night continues to fall that we're going to see more instigators, more people that are going to come and try to cause trouble. But I think there are certainly more resources on a night like tonight where they can handle these a lot more quickly and respond to it in a rapid fashion. But it does look like it's almost like the officers are pushing these various groups a little further. So they're almost in a way separating these groups.
Wild to watch.
And I have to say, even in this instance here, when you have when you have the officers and you have some of the protesters and there's a face-off, if you will, the officers are always very stoic. People are screaming and yelling at them. There's a little less of that. There appears to be a little less of that. So a few moments ago, it was like a scene from the 70s when you have a guy here with his shirt off, long hair and glasses and strumming a guitar. And, you know, I was waiting for him to come and start singing Kumbaya to people, but, you know, people are carrying flowers and things, and it just seems just a little bit different. It's not the same in terms of the sort of confrontational nature that we were seeing the other night. Again, at least at this location that we're seeing at this particular moment right now.
Well, Bobby, you're talking about different locations. We have this information in about the metro train. Because of protests in the downtown area, the train actually, the metro line from Santa Monica, is they say turning back instead of going on to the 7th Street Metro Center station. And
Whoa.
Here we see...
Is this live?
Yeah.
So this is, they're just breaking the windows in Hollywood. Looters once again at work here in the Hollywood area. Many of them...
Look at people, though, protecting the store. They're saying,
wow.
Get back. They're not trying to... they're trying to intervene there and stop the looting there.
But somebody just broke one of the windows, broke another window there. Is this a CVS pharmacy?
Walgreens, yeah.
Walgreens.
You saw one man there, all in black, with that big stick there, bash the window. And then look at these people here. Just soak this in for a moment. These people, how brave they are to stand up to the vandals that had that big stick there to break that glass. They're trying to take back that store and say no to the looting, and perhaps law enforcement can get that. But how very dangerous, how very courageous and dangerous. Wow.
Wow, but it looks like they were able to do it. I mean, instead of that entire store being taken, stuff taken from it, they just have 1 or 2 broken windows. That's amazing. I mean, the story of the night seems to be the story of the community trying to take the streets back and saying, enough, we're not going to have it here. Well, not going to happen in my community.
The chief of police said it's going to take more than just law enforcement on their own, that the community is going to have to play a role in this. But gosh, you know, that is very scary to see these people who are so bent on breaking into. Look at them taking video and trying to document their pictures there of cars speeding away. You have to wonder if those were potential looters, that people are saying, no, we see who you are, and we're going to document that.
There are just so many surreal images that we've witnessed, really, especially in the last half hour here. After a day of peaceful protests throughout Southern California, things have started to get kind of wild here in the last half hour on Fox 11. We believe this is Highland. Yeah. And then we see, hopefully these are peaceful protesters that are making their way right by where that potential crime happened. I mean, breaking of the window is a crime, but...
That Trejo's Donuts right there.
Yeah, Danny Trejo's place. All right, as we approach the top of the hour, this is usually where we do our Fox 11 special report, but tonight we are doing special coverage of the unrest in Southern California.
Support the black community. From the front lines of the protest in downtown L.A.
Everything that's happening right now is wrong, and they need change. We all need change. We need more love and less hatred.
To Riverside County's protest, the sheriff takes a knee.
If it has to start right here in the middle.
Hey, Jack, you're coming in a little low, but the protesters were blocking the looters from getting in there, and the looters moved on. Everybody's moved on from the Walgreens now. I did. I got the video of them standing in front of the Walgreens blocking. I have exhaust. We're looking at Lexington here, Lexington Avenue and Highland Avenue. The group taking over the intersection here. Yeah, there's definitely a guy up there. LAPD does not like having anybody taking the high ground like that. They will, airship will see that and send up a team of officers to clear any high ground like that. So far, it doesn't look like the LAPD's made it here. They're behind the group about a block away. And now they're up, and it looks like they're going to start to move again northbound. Here's the LAPD and their squad cars. There's the Walgreens that was attempted to be looted, but the protesters blocked the entrance. The window was smashed out a little bit, but they did not make entry because the protesters said no way. Actually, there is a window broken out right there as well, so, but they did not make it into the Walgreens, thanks to the protesters that were blocking it and saying, no way, you're not going to loot this place. Oh, God. Yeah. Hey, Steph. Okay. Yeah, it didn't look like he was armed. We'll see. There's two guys there. There's one with, they both look like they have cell phones. Let's see. Yeah, he's putting away his cell phone as well. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Jack, they are. They have been talking about it, but the group moves on them before they get a chance to get into place. That's the trouble they're having. Let's move back. Wait, Vine, and let's move east, Mike, to your 2 o'clock, right along the boulevard that's under you. Okay, Jack. Jack understood. Sorry, Steph. I was listening to, or Jack was talking to me. We're trying to get in to find where they're going to make these arrests. Yeah. I missed where they were going to do those arrests. Okay, I think I see it. Say again. Right here on this street, they're moving in. It's south of Sunset. Well, let me look over here now. They're just setting up a skirmish line. I think it's this group they're talking to, but I don't see the people there.
go live. Everybody go live.
George Floyd!
back so you can hear what's going on here. Protesters are now just arriving at Chase Field. Things have still remained peaceful out here. Posters chanting. At least 1,000 people in this crowd. Again, it's hard to tell exactly how many. We see some police officers on motorcycles speeding up ahead. Again, we're just marching past Chase Field right now. Every so often, the group stops and kneels down at an intersection or a parking lot. They've done that a few times. And again, there have been many calls urging people to stay peaceful. They say they don't want any violence out here. And so far, people have been listening to that. We have not seen any acts of violence whatsoever. In a peaceful march, about 1,000 people or so. It started at Phoenix Police Headquarters a few hours ago. Now remember, we've got a statewide curfew that goes into effect in about 40 minutes. And what Phoenix Police said they were doing last night was kind of using it as an education period, because they said they realized it's possible not everyone had heard about the curfew. But technically, the 8 p.m. curfew goes into effect each night through 8. And after that point, technically these large gathering parties won't be legal or allowed. But again, it wasn't until an hour after the curfew went into effect yesterday that the police started dispersing the crowd.
No justice, no peace!
So it doesn't mean that at 8 o'clock sharp they'll have to leave or necessarily even be forced to leave, but technically the curfew does start at 8 o'clock p.m. is when it goes into effect. Have you used them?
I have.
good man died, and it's not right. But what I do want to stand here and say is this: I don't want anyone to think that just because this happened to this man by a horrible officer, somebody who wasn't operating in the right mindset or heart, that counts for every person. And when I see signs that say F12 and every police, I just want you to know that every officer is not racist. Every officer doesn't hold hatred in their heart. Hold on. I'm talking. Listen, I'm against racism. I'm against hatred. I'm against murders that take place like this. And you might not. Listen, see, that's where we need to learn. That's where we need to learn. Because in our age group, what happens is if we don't agree with somebody, we immediately shut them out. And I'm just speaking my voice. I've heard your guys' voice, and I'm in agreement with you. I don't like this. I'm not for it. But in the end, I want you to know that in other cities, people are looting and destroying things. And I want to make sure that we're praying for our city, that I'm praying for you guys, that I'm praying for the officers. I'm praying for protection for my children, for anybody. If you have children, your children, one day you will have children. You want them to be protected. And in the end, I just want to have grace. I'm praying for you guys. I want you to know that I'm here and I love you guys. I'm not for the death.
Don't tell us how to protest.
I'm not telling you how to protest.
Don't tell us how to protest.
I am okay with what's happening here. I love what's happening here. I'm in agreement with what you guys are doing. But what I'm not in agreement with was with my family that's in East LA, seeing stores being broken into. What I'm not in agreement with right now is with people that are being hurt, people that are being broken down. So what I'm doing is I'm standing here and just saying, you know what, I'm praying for you guys as you protest. I'm praying that we don't allow our anger to rise up and things to be destroyed. I honor and I respect what you guys are doing. And I appreciate you guys. And I love what you guys are doing. Thank you guys. Thank you guys.
Let me speak a little bit. Thank you guys for letting him speak and put his opinion, to make that clear, his opinion out. And that's what it was. At the end of the day, we're going to continue chanting, fuck all cops, fuck racist police, because we don't give a fuck about the racist police. We fuck with the police, but we don't. Whatever your opinion is, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, we're going to keep chanting what we're chanting, because I made it clear. I don't want the news to miss up what he just said and contradict what I said. We don't fuck with the police that are racist. Make it clear, we don't fuck with the corrupt system. That is the police that we don't fuck with. So if he fucks with police, that's fine. But respect people's opinions, respect what they have to say, because all of us right now, this is our opinion, and people are respecting it. So you could at least respect his. At the end of the day, we're peacefully protesting. Let's stay peaceful like we are. He said something about LA. We're not in LA. No, we're not. We're in Bakersfield. No. We haven't rioted. We haven't looted anything, and it's not going to get to that. It doesn't need to get to that. This is enough noise that we're making right here. So keep this peacefulness. Keep it where we're at. That's what it is. Like we said, no justice,
no peace.
Fuck these racist ass police.
No justice, no peace.
Make it clear.
No justice, no peace.
Hold on. I saw some faces twist up in the crowd. I saw the news back there. His face twisted up when I said fuck the police. I'm gonna make it clear again. We don't fuck with racist police. And let me tell you something. Our entire police department is racist, because you wanna know why? Why didn't they kneel with us? Why didn't at least one of them kneel with us? That's called racism. That's called racism. When they see what our fight is, and they see that we're being peaceful, and they come and make it violent, that's racism, and they don't care to change it. So at the end of the day, we don't fuck with BPD because they are racist. It's clear. We asked them several times to kneel with us, and we would have left last night. They didn't do that. Instead, they tried to tear gas us. They attacked us. They arrested 3 people. So let's continue staying peaceful. And like we said before, we don't fuck with racist police. And the Bakersfield Police Department, it seems to be racist. If you're not racist, Bakersfield Police Department, come and stand front line with us. And that's right. No justice, no peace.
Fuck these racist police. No justice, no peace. Fuck these racist police. No justice, no peace. Fuck these racist police. No justice, no peace. Fuck these racist police. No justice, no peace. Fuck these racist police. These racist cops are about to go. Hey, hey. Ho, ho. These
It's like graffiti stuff like that. It's irrelevant. You guys don't ask me. You guys are not asking serious questions. Why we're here. A lot of people say. And the reason why I made those comments is because I saw a lot of people come on here and were talking about, I'm from the hood, and I live there, and I saw another guy who was just talking about complete nonsense. And it's just like, why are those people that you guys choose to put on Facebook Live, to put on the news, and not intelligent people who are here to tell you why we're here? We're here for justice, what black people, brown people, people of color, and we want police officers to kill George Floyd, Sandra Bland, civil rights, all of these people. We are here for them. We are here for Black Lives Matter. We know that all lives matter. We make it clear. We know that all lives matter. So because you guys don't think Black Lives Matter and we don't have any justice for black killing, we're here making it clear that Black Lives matter. We know that your lives matter. We know that your lives matter. But what doesn't matter, apparently to the police, to the justice system, is Black lives. So that is our argument. I saw a lot of news stories where people were saying that we were rioting, we were inciting violence, we were here to move a bunch of Asians, a bunch of Jews. We're not any of that. So good. A lot of us are very intelligent, have a degrees, so we're not ignorant, we're not children, we're not people out here trying to just be out here for nothing. We're able to start a fight, right? And it bothers me that we're out here protesting and you are the problem. That doesn't change anything. That's out here blocking traffic. Yes, it may be against the law, but it's making noise. It's making people wake up. It's making people honk. It's making people go clock out of work late. And that's a good thing because we need to make that noise. We need to understand the police were not with us and they are not with us. They were with us. They were with us last night. We asked them to get on the meet with us. We asked them to get on the meet with us. So all of the people in the comments saying we're here, we're racist, or we're just young, we're ignorant, this, that, and the other, that's not the message that we're putting out. We're here to fight. I wouldn't do that. The community.
So we're on First Street and Van Buren now. Looks like they're taking another pause.
Let's go.
Yeah, but that's not our message. That right there is not our message, bro. That's not our message. That's what they bro. That's the national security. That no hijack.
See, there's. Are they like going home or are they just splintering? I can't tell. Like, is it just. I think it's just getting progressively smaller, right? Like, some people are just going home.
They can't after 8 o'clock. Are you guys hungry? I can run good food. There's a person giving out
Literally.
Yeah, it's way smaller now. How many would you say are in this area? 2 or 3? Yeah. It's really dropped down. Excuse me. That's kind of what Morgan said they were doing yesterday.
Hey, yo, it's Mama. Hey, man.
Are you going home?
Are you guys streaming this still? I just wanted to give a call for say something. Camera battery. I got 2 backpacks. Just want to see if we can get We're just walking around far away. I'm sure we are.
Excuse me, sorry.
Mind if we do like a
Zoom, they need to come out here with us and fight. That pamphlet, that flyer, it means nothing to us unless you come and show your face.
And Jay, tonight, so you're here now. How many would you say? About 175, 200, and how?
200, yeah. 200? About 200.
200, and how long do you expect to stay out here tonight?
Honestly, my goal would be for the police department to come out with us. If they came out and stood with us, we would end the protest. We need our people, our community, including the police officers, the people who think we're inciting violence, to come and stand with us, fight with us. Let us know that you respect what we are fighting for and why we're here. If they can do that, then the protest will be over. We wouldn't even be out here. We want the community to see that we want change.
Regarding the Zoom meeting that's going to be happening tomorrow, it's sponsored by. Let me go ahead and go to my email. I'm so sorry, sir. I heard that the MLK community. Sorry, just one sec. I'm trying to find
the MLK,
the social media post real quick. Sorry, sir.
So we're looking for the social media post up.
Here's my thing. Is
I saw the flyer,
you saw the
and
flyer.
it was organized by the Bakersfield Police Memorial or something like that. It was.
You have She Power and hashtag MLK community.
I don't even know what is the MLK community?
MLK Community Unity Initiative.
What is that?
And
do you know what that is?
I don't.
Do you know what that is?
You know, I should know. I should know.
I don't know what that is. You don't know. You don't know. You guys don't know because it's not real. That's police department. That Zoom meeting is to try to make it so we won't come out here and protest. That doesn't help.
It seems like law enforcement's trying to have a conversation on the Zoom meeting.
Come out and have a conversation out here.
Why not both?
Huh?
Why not both?
Do it look like we want to be on a Zoom meeting right now?
But it's hard to have conversation like this out in public because it's not organized.
It is organized. You want to go organize them? I can show you organization.
Sir,
said, why would they do that when you're not organized? Are we not organized? Yes. Are we not peaceful? Yes. If we're not organized, let's show them how organized we are. No justice!
No peace! Fuck these racist police! No justice! No peace! Fuck these racist police!
And quiet down! Let's show them how we're organized. Silence. Are we not organized? Yes. Did we not just chant and then quiet down when we wanted to? Yes. If the Bakersfield Police Department came right here and lined up on this sidewalk, would this protest even be happening? No. Thank you. That's it. So there's your answer. What do we want?
Justice! Justice! Can I finish my thought? Let me finish my thought, man.
Justice!
I wanted to make it clear that we are organized and we can be organized.
I didn't mean like in a physical manner, per se.
Okay.
You've attended town hall meetings, correct?
Of course.
You've seen where someone kind of overspeaks their time. I want to finish this conversation.
Sure.
I'm sorry. Sure. You've attended town hall meetings, and you've probably seen somebody speak a little bit beyond their time limit on the clock.
Of course. Yeah.
You've seen these conversations that happened over here with the prayer group, the second religious group, and some of the conversations here with some of this group as well too. Okay. It's not a physical organized. I'm talking about like on a verbal level.
So then why don't the Bakersfield Police Department come out here and peacefully protest with us and organize us, man? Why don't they come organize us?
Call for it.
Huh?
Call for it.
Call for what?
And it just doesn't seem organized.
What's not organized about it? I just had them chant at the second I wanted them to chant and quiet down the second I wanted them to quiet down. How is it not organized?
Can I ask you another
Go
question?
ahead.
Forgive me. I don't want to change the subject. I just want to ask in terms of logistics. I'm here to ask questions of you. Is that so? I'm just going to ask how many nights do you hope to be out here, or as long as it takes? What?
Until it changes. Until the police department comes out here and stands with us. The moment the police department comes out here and kneels with us and they get on a mic and they bring their own blowhorn and they say, we stand with you. Black Lives Matter. We're here with you. That's when we'll end this.
Point blank.
That's when we'll end this.
All righty. You heard from Jay. There you go. So that's the gentleman who was leading some of these protests here, telling us that he wants this to be peaceful. He also said that he invited BPD to take a kneel. According to him, they did not. And so that's the information that he's been telling us. We also asked him about the faith service that Pastor Angelo Frazier had organized earlier. He said he respects that. He said that does not necessarily achieve, though, what he and those he's with out here tonight want to achieve, which he said, according to his argument, was justice here. So I'm going to now be quiet for a little and let you listen in. And I'm just going to give you one more update for those just joining us on Facebook Live. Just wanted to let you know. Sorry if this is repetitive for others who have already been on here. This is the intersection of H Street, H like Henry, and Chester Avenue. You probably heard this a lot, but in case you didn't know, Truxton is. I'm sorry, we're not at the intersection of H and Chester. Forgive me, I'm mixing things up now. We're at the intersection of H Street, H like Henry, and Truxton Avenue. Truxton is closed between H Street and Chester, and I Street is closed between City Hall and just the alleyway just behind City Hall North. Just so you have an idea of where we are, these protesters have marched around town earlier. We saw them around the Bank of America building near the courthouse, and now they are back here at the intersection of H and Truxton. Just to give you an idea. All right, now I'll be quiet, and we'll listen to the protesters.
right? Say government cheese. That's what I wanted you to smile. That's why I did.
How you doing, buddy? One more. News. One more. You got it? You sure?
We'll do one more.
Okay, one more. We can boogie. You want?
Praise. Jesus. God is good. God is good. All the time. Amen. Amen. Woo. God is good. Amen.
Amen.
When's this going to be like? Nobody's going to be like. Tag my Hey, all right, guys.
All right, stay with me 1 second. We just have a press release, a joint statement between Governor Polis and Denver Mayor Hancock. This is in regard to President Trump's threat today to use military force against demonstrators. Stay with me 5 minutes before 9 o'clock. I want to read this statement to you. Governor Jared Polis and Mayor Michael Hancock issued the following joint statement regarding the president's threat today to use military force against demonstrators. It says, Denver police, our mutual aid partners, and a small contingent of Colorado National Guard have been working for the past 4 days and nights to support peaceful demonstrations in Denver. They've worked long hours under difficult conditions, especially as day turns to night, but there's no need, they say, for the deployment of U.S. troops to maintain order in our city. Again, this is from both Governor Polis and Mayor Hancock. The president's threat, they say, to deploy federal troops is counterproductive and will only stoke the potential for worse violence and destruction. Denver is not Little Rock in 1957, and Donald Trump is not President Eisenhower, they say. This is a time for healing, for bringing people together, and the best way to protect civil rights is to move away from escalating violence. That statement just out from Governor Polis and Mayor Hancock in response to what we talked about earlier of President Trump's threat to call in the military to quell the violence in the cities he doesn't feel it's being addressed properly. All right, just a few minutes away from when the curfew officially begins here in Denver, and Tony Kovaleski, last check with a very peaceful, large crowd. Tony?
As I said earlier, Shannon, almost parade-like out here. You've got cars driving by that have joined it, people outside their vehicles, on top of the vehicles, sending a message, and the march has been incredibly passionate. There's been no vandalism, as you were talking about a little earlier. Nobody spray painting anything. We've seen no broken windows, nothing against the hundreds of vehicles we've walked by as we continue to move on Welton. We're passing the 25th and Welton RTD station as we continue moving north through the town. But yeah, it'll be intriguing to see where this is going. But they've clearly moved out of the downtown, the Capitol core, where we saw all of that conflict. It has been well organized. It has been without any incident that we've seen on this side. We were in the middle for a while. And maybe the message from the governor and the message from the mayor and the the tactics that we've seen used over the past 72 hours, maybe it's starting to work. Maybe we're getting closer to what might just be a peaceful protest and a chance for people to air their First Amendment rights about the frustrations that have taken place in our country. And if we can get to that, I think there'll be a lot of us, Ann and Shannon, that'll be saying hallelujah.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are hopeful, Tony, that we can get to that point. Again, we are just under 2 minutes away from curfew hitting Denver, and we're looking at our Air Tracker 7 picture there to the right of the screen. Tony, you're walking. We're still seeing you walking to the left side of the screen, and there is still a huge crowd out tonight, still marching in the streets of Denver, and thankfully peaceful to this point. Tony, I was also struck by the amount of traffic that I just heard and saw as you were walking, I think across 25th there. So it doesn't look like police are trying to hold back any of the traffic from those side streets as far as you can tell?
Yeah, the side streets, it's like people are pulling out to watch the event. They're stopping, they're honking as we go by the side streets. Some have joined in, as you can see here. There's 3 or 4 cars lined up. There's at least a couple behind us. It's procession-like, it's parade-like, and it's been impressively peaceful.
And impressively peaceful earlier as they were gathered on the steps of the state capitol. There was a moment of silence, or actually several minutes of silence, in honor of George Floyd, as we saw people gathering as early as 5 o'clock this evening. They gathered quite peacefully for 3 hours to hear speeches and to hear poems and messages of peace and words of wisdom. And so to this point, it has been a relatively calm night in Denver with literally thousands of people out on the streets. Again, we are watching here in Denver and elsewhere as we start, well, we're just less than 30 seconds away now from curfew time in Denver, Tony.
Yeah, and to your point, I think it's important that we stress this is a completely different group out here tonight than we saw earlier this afternoon, marching arm in arm with the police chief. It's like there was a day shift and a night shift, and it appears that I don't think it's the same people. When we were in about 6:30 around the Capitol, many of the people that were at that afternoon rally were leaving, and we could see other people coming in. We wondered what it would be like. Were these the groups of people that created the problems on Friday night and Saturday night and Sunday night? But no, you know what? It is great to report that this has been wonderfully peaceful, Ann.
Truly, and as I'm watching you and watching some of our other crews out there, I know Addie Guajardo, she had a chance to talk to some of the protesters who have said they will stay out beyond the 9 p.m. curfew to protest. Others, of course, say they will be going home, but the crowds, at least from my vantage point, Tony, they have not thinned. They haven't thinned much now that we've just passed the 9 o'clock hour and that curfew that I'm sure so many people received on their phones, that curfew alert saying now is the time to get inside or head home.
Well, let me point out the couple in front of me. They're walking hand in hand. It's almost date night, and they're sending a message. They're walking and talking and experiencing what's happening. I mean, truth of the matter is, we are part of history right now. In 10 years and 20 years from now, people here will tell their children about what happened, and we've seen a turn. Now you've got it looks like a Denver fire vehicle that's going through the intersection there. Got some other law enforcement vehicles coming down here. Not exactly sure what is happening or what is going on, but again, it is history. It's history for Denver. It's history for our country. And a lot of people are joining in, making sure they're sending their message. Ann?
Well, and Tony, as Shannon and I were speaking earlier, this is not only the part of history that has changed lives this year. 2020 has been an incredibly difficult year for